gone into the doctor and said, give me this look. Like, because these trans, I don't know, we just call it trans women, look now like the Hollywood girls. They're all getting the same, like the buccal fat removal.
Growing speculation that Meghan Markle went under the knife before her Paris disaster trip designed to traumatize Prince Harry, with that journey through Paris emulating that.
Meghan, our Duchess, people will be able to watch it at a later time. But by the way, her and Prince Harry, who always seem to snap into these weird royal roles.
Meghan Markle. Has she gone under the knife? Let's start by looking at her from the age of 17 to today at the age of 38. Are you seeing any obvious changes here? Well, I'd like to have you focus on her nose and her lips. Those are two areas that we're really going to focus on.
If the boundary you want to push is your face, go for it. Go for it. If that's the boundary you want to push, if you want to see how far you can stretch your face before it pops, go for it.
We're going to start with Meghan Markle. She's been in the news recently. She's kind of always in the news. I think she's a very attractive biracial girl or woman. Looks like possible tip graft and more tip projection, as well as the nostrils narrowing, bridge being more defined. So those are all telltale signs of a rhinoplasty being done.
I will say I don't understand men getting plastic surgery because always age like a fine glass of wine.
Meghan Markle, the royal duchess, is influencing trends worldwide, including plastic surgery.
She's beautiful. I mean, her nose is just striking.
Yes, that nose, pure perfection.
She suffers from such a rare disorder of being unable to just be a human.
A deep dive into Meghan Markle's ever-changing faces. Same woman, different faces. I have nothing against plastic surgery. God knows if I could afford it, I'd probably have something done. But Meghan Markle takes this to a completely different level. Believe it or not, you're gonna see and you're gonna tell me that if you saw these two women out in the street, you would think that they're the same women.
If you go back and you look throughout Meghan Markle's entire career, she never wanted people to know that she was black. She never wore that on her sleeve. She never spoke about her blackness.
Meghan Markle gets some sort of nose job or plastic surgery. That is a question I have been asking myself after people started to point out that, hey, her nose looks a bit different in her birthday picture. And not to mention the fact we really haven't seen her in a month.
Stop right here. This was never about looks. It never was. If it were about appearance, this conversation would have ended long ago. When Candace Owens spoke about Meghan Markle, she didn't list procedures or debate facial features. She focused on something far more unsettling. She questioned the timing. She questioned the repetition. And she asked why reinvention always seems to show up right after pressure hits. That's why this subject refuses to fade away.
I do believe that Meghan Markle did have a conservative rhinoplasty surgery. Now, this nose job did a lot for Meghan Markle. What it did was it brought focus back to her gorgeous eyes and her beautiful smile. A nose really can't make you beautiful because she was already beautiful. This just put the focus back on her other gorgeous features.
Make it end. Make it end. What is this?
People didn't suddenly wake up upset about cosmetic changes. Hollywood is full of them. What people began to notice was something different. A rhythm, a loop, disappear, silence, return, a sharper appearance, a slightly altered face, a new explanation, then repeat, pay attention. This is where everything shifts, because once the public senses a pattern, the face stops being just a face. It turns into evidence, not of vanity, but of control. Control of the story, control of criticism, control of perception.
I'm still shocked by Meghan Markle's transformation. Not sure if she had surgery or what. Her chin definitely looks enhanced.
You know, so it's kind of like it's an obsession with this woman. The same thing for the marriage. Remember when she said that she didn't know anything about the royals, and yet she did an interview way back when she was criticizing Catherine's wedding, saying, oh, that was a big thing, that she didn't need that woman didn't need that spectacle, and blah, blah, blah.
And they no longer have a healthy relationship with their own faces. Like they think that every wrinkle matters. It doesn't. People look normal.
Candace put words to what many already felt but couldn't clearly describe. You can't preach authenticity while constantly reshaping yourself to avoid discomfort. You can't sell empowerment and then disappear every time the image cracks. This isn't judgment, it's order. Many people missed it early on, but not you. You felt the mismatch before the headlines did. You noticed how changes followed backlash, how reinvention trailed controversy like clockwork. And here's the question no one can answer yet.
You can see that Meghan has a great curl to her hair. She has a youthful infrabrow fullness. She has a flatter nasal bridge, a broad nasal base, and some tip bulbosity.
If the image keeps shifting to escape pressure, what happens when the pressure stays? To understand where trust began to crack, we have to rewind. Back before fame, back before messaging, back to the face that existed before it needed defending. Go back before the spotlight, before speeches, before branding. Early photos of Meghan Markle show a face unfinished in the way youth often is. Softer contours, a wider nasal base, a rounded tip, fullness beneath the brows that comes from age, not effort. Nothing sharp, nothing sculpted, nothing performing. Pause here.
And I'm also going to tell you by the end of it what I think about those rumors that she may have had some Botox. Well, here she is at the age of 17, and here she is at the age of 25. And this is who I consider to be the natural young Meghan Markle, before she may have had anything done. And when you take a look at her nose, she has a very characteristic nose. She has a bit of a round tip to her nose, and she has a little bit of width to her nose, which is very consistent with her ethnicity. Also take a peek at her lips. She has nice full lips that anybody would die for.
As a trained actress, what she does is that she studies people. She's not a good actress, but she is a trained one, right? She's been doing it her entire life.
Most people never question this phase, but you did because this part matters more than it seems. Surgeons often explain that rounded or bulb-like nose tips aren't flaws. They're strong, functional, normal. In many cases, they even support better airflow. These aren't features that require fixing. They're simply structure. And yet, as time moves into the early 20s, something subtle begins. The hairline looks more controlled. The brows appear more shaped. The smile looks brighter, longer, more uniform. Dental work often comes up. Veneers maybe, not shocking, not rare, but it marks a shift. This is where observation replaces assumption, not accusation, direction. A move from natural growth to intentional polish.
Meghan is her teeth. Pretty obvious. She probably did veneers and some work on her teeth. When you see younger pictures of her, she had teeth that had a lot of gaps in them, a little wider, a little smaller, and now she has this really bright, amazing smile. You know, people shouldn't underestimate how much that adds to somebody's look. Not only prettier, but again, younger, just more attractive, everything. So I think it was done well and not overdone, and I think it was a good job. One of the things that's pretty obvious is probably in her 20s or 30s or sometime around, you know, a little bit younger, she did her nose. Rhinoplasty, again, is something that the noses don't naturally shrink, take more contour, the tip doesn't raise, nostrils don't come in on their own. So I'm kind of giving away, but that's what I noticed in her nose. So we look at her when she was younger, her nose was more bulbous, the nostrils were a little wider, the bridge of her nose wasn't as defined. And then as we move into, like I said, photos of her a little bit older, we see that the nose has shrunk down, the tip looks like possible tip graft and more tip projection, as well as the nostrils narrowing, bridge being more defined. So those are all telltale signs of a rhinoplasty being done.
From letting the face mature to managing how it reads on camera. Many viewers say the same thing at this stage. She already had strong bone structure, natural lip fullness others chase later, balance people pay for. So the question forms quietly and stays. Why refine what already worked? Because when authenticity later becomes the brand, early choices gain new meaning. They suggest foresight, awareness, a long plan. Nothing dramatic happens yet, but the path is set. And once the path is set, the changes don't stop. By the mid-20s, the face still looks familiar, but it no longer looks untouched. This is the phase people struggle to explain. They say, I can't name one thing, but something changed.
This is not my area of expertise, but you have been looking into this for some time, and you believe it is true that Meghan Markle has gone under the knife.
Oh, yes. I mean, of course she has. She's never actually said I have, but you can see because certain things have changed quite significantly, and she's that sort of woman. She's going to do with it. I mean, the easiest one is to talk about teeth. When she was younger, she had gaps, and now she's got beautiful teeth, and that helps her give us all a lovely, shiny smile. So that's that.
The cheekbones appear more defined in certain photos. The jaw looks firmer. The smile shows more upper teeth even at rest. The lips seem more shaped without appearing obviously altered. On its own, none of this proves anything. Together, it starts to feel deliberate. Here's why this phase matters. Surgeons often say the features people chase later are exactly what appear here naturally. Visible tooth show, a short philtrum, balanced lip shape. These are results many patients request after refresh procedures. And yet at this age, those traits already seem present. So the question quietly shifts. Not what was done, but why refine it all? Why sharpen something that already photographs well? This is where preparation enters the conversation. Preparation for scrutiny.
And then, but actually more important again is the face, of course. And she had a different sort of face, really. She had a bridge that was too defined. So they worked on that, and they worked on the side. And all of the freckles which they use, the skin looked flawless because of all her freckles.
For close-ups for red carpets for a future where every angle is judged, nothing explodes yet. No headlines, no backlash, but something subtle changes in the audience's mind. They stop seeing natural evolution and start seeing intention because the changes no longer feel like time passing. They feel like steps. And the next step, when one feature alters the entire face, makes that direction impossible to ignore. By the early 30s, the conversation shifts. People stop saying she looks different and start saying that feature isn't the same. And the feature mentioned again and again is the nose. Early images show a wider base, a softer bridge, a rounded tip. Then over time, the structure appears tighter. The base looks narrower.
But now let's take a peek at her 7 years later at the age of 32. Now she's made it big in Hollywood, and what are we seeing with her nose? Has it been thinned a little bit? I think it's definitely possible that she's had some very conservative thinning of her nose and maybe even a little projection added.
The tip seems more refined. The profile looks straighter in side views, more streamlined, more controlled. This is where speculation stops feeling casual. Doctors often explain that changes like this don't usually come from makeup, lighting, or angles. To narrow a nasal base or refine a tip, cartilage has to be adjusted, shaped, secured. That's structural work. And when structure changes, it affects everything nearby. Viewers begin noticing the space between the nose and upper lip. They point out that the philtrum appears longer than before. Surgeons often say this can happen after nasal tip work. It's common enough that some patients later seek lip procedures to rebalance proportions. That detail sticks because it suggests sequence. One change leading to another. One adjustment creating a new imbalance to fix. This is the moment many viewers describe as the turning point. Not because the face looks bad, but because it looks unfamiliar, less organic, more designed.
A broad nasal base, and some tip bulbosity. Now, the shape that we see on the outside when we look at someone's nose has to do with how their cartilages are shaped. The cartilages can have either a flat type of shape to them, they can be concave, or they can be convex. So when we see bulbosity, that means that those cartilages are in a convex position. Convex structures, such as various domes, have some built-in strength to them. So there are some advantages to this type of orientation. It allows us in many instances to actually breathe better.
This is when a phrase starts appearing again and again in comments. She stopped looking like herself. Once that thought settles in, it's hard to shake. And after this point, something else begins, something more suspicious than any single procedure. She doesn't just look different, she starts disappearing. After the structural changes, a new pattern quietly forms. She doesn't just change, she vanishes. Not permanently, not announced, just long stretches of silence. No red carpets, no casual sightings, no steady public rhythm. And then suddenly she's back. And when she returns, people don't focus on what she says, they study what they see. The brow sits differently. The cheeks look tighter in some moments, hollow in others. The jawline appears sharper. The skin looks smoother but thinner, shinier, less forgiving.
So different at the Balenciaga show, so I took a closer look. Looking at her appearance from 5 years ago when she was 39, her features have a softer quality to them. Now at 44, there is a notable shift in how more youthful her face looks, and it looks significantly more defined and lifted. While weight loss can enhance facial definition, that alone does not account for the changes that we're seeing here. I think she's had an upper and lower blepharoplasty and a face and neck lift. The upper eyelids are more on show, there's less skin around the under eye area, and the lower facial contour speaks for itself. Comparing this photo from 2021 to now, the tragus has been slightly altered and the earlobe position has changed in position and also how it attaches to the face. You can clearly see she takes great care of her skin, and non-surgical modalities like skincare, skin devices, and Botox will play an important role here in enhancing the overall look.
This is where viewers stop guessing and start tracking. Comments begin repeating the same questions in different words. Why does this keep happening? Why is it always after she disappears? Why does she come back looking reset? In Hollywood, long absences often line up with recovery windows. Swelling needs time to settle. Bruising fades, tissue adjusts. That doesn't prove anything, but it explains why people connect the dots, especially when changes don't follow normal aging. Aging usually softens a face. Gravity pulls downward. Volume shifts slowly. What people say they're seeing instead feels uneven. Tight here, hollow there, refined then strained. That contradiction becomes the story. Many viewers say she looked younger before, softer, more relaxed, more human.
Then going down the face, if you look at her nose, 100% she's had a rhinoplasty. So do you guys see that this is wider here and narrower here, and you can see more of the bridge of the nose. It's like more, it's, what's the word right? it's just more defined, the bridge here, where the bridge here, it starts narrow and it goes big like this. And here it's like narrow all the way down. So if you look at her before picture, she does have, you can see a little bit of a tear trough here. And what I would do is just do like a tiny little drop there. But here it's completely, there's filler here. Going down the face though, if you look at this cheek, this is definitely filler. Do you see this? Where in the before picture, she doesn't have that.
Once enough people feel that way, curiosity turns into doubt. Because if the goal was to quiet criticism, the opposite happens. The disappearances don't calm the conversation, they feed it. And then comes the return meant to end the debate completely on one of the biggest stages possible. Instead, it does the unthinkable. It makes everything worse. Paris was supposed to reset everything. High fashion, global cameras, a controlled room filled with image experts. This was meant to signal power, relevance, and renewal. Instead, it blew the conversation wide open. Under harsh lighting and unfiltered lenses, people didn't talk about the outfit for long. They talked about the face. The skin looked unusually shiny. The cheeks appeared more hollow. The jawline looked sharper, almost rigid. The eyes seemed tight, less at ease. Many said she looked uncomfortable, like someone performing a version of herself that no longer fit.
Picture. Now she does still seemingly have the little bit of the bump here, which makes me a little less convinced that she had some sort of nose job in a way, because if you would fix this, why don't you fix that too? And somebody also mentioned that, well, hey, when you purse your lips like that, your nose does tend to move in a particular way where this sort of slope thing could disappear.
Stop right here, because the reaction wasn't slow, it was instant. The same words repeated across platforms. Tighter pulled, gaunt, older, not younger. Some blamed extreme weight loss. Others whispered about overcorrection. Some mentioned medication rumors. None of it was confirmed, but volume mattered more than certainty. This wasn't curiosity anymore, it was backlash. For years, changes were debated quietly. Paris made that impossible. The appearance was public, heavily photographed, and impossible to soften with angles or filters. Instead of admiration, there was mockery. People felt sold. A reset that failed. A reinvention that felt forced, a comeback that looked desperate.
Yes, one person said she looked as if she was wearing toilet paper. So I think that they were not very impressed by it.
What's quite interesting, I think, when you look at all of this, that she is definitely suffering at the moment from a career slump until Saturday. Is this going to turn it around? That is the question.
Once an audience decides a moment has backfired, the damage spreads fast because now the face wasn't the only thing judged, the strategy was. When strategy becomes visible, credibility suffers. And that's when the story stops being about appearance and starts being about control. After Paris, something shifts in a way people can feel. The response isn't reflection. It isn't pause, it's pressure. Critics are dismissed. Questions are reframed as hate. Doubt is treated as betrayal. And slowly a pattern forms that viewers recognize immediately.
Be fond of doing that sort of thing. Gives her pleasure. That's what makes her feel big. But I think it's very nasty. And I don't think that she's going to make it, because she hangs on to Harry all the time. She's got his hand, his body, he can't move, he doesn't want him to go unless she gives him a sort of break for 2 days, 4 days, what it is. But actually when he's in a big place, she's very, very nervous, like she was in the French place.
The more the image is questioned, the tighter it's managed. People share similar experiences, being blocked for mild criticism, being attacked for simple questions, being labeled cruel for noticing what their eyes can see. And once that happens, the audience doesn't feel inspired. They feel controlled. This is where confidence quietly drains away, because real confidence doesn't chase every comment. It doesn't need armies. It doesn't need constant correction. It absorbs, it steadies, it moves on. What people sense instead is fear. Fear of losing control. Fear that if the image slips even briefly, the entire story collapses. At this stage, the face becomes symbolic, not of beauty or youth, but of effort, of constant adjustment, of someone trying to stay one step ahead of public opinion instead of facing it. Viewers phrase it simply, if there's nothing to hide, why all the force? That question doesn't need an answer to grow louder. Because once control replaces confidence, the benefit of the doubt disappears. And that's when the damage moves past appearance. It reaches reputation. This is where Candace's words hit hardest, not because they were cruel, but because they were clear. She didn't debate procedures. She didn't diagnose. She pointed to the pattern. Reinvention after backlash, silence after criticism, a new look when the old story stops working. And then came the line that ended the argument for many. You can't surgically outrun accountability. That landed because it matched what people had already experienced. By this point, the audience wasn't debating what was done. They were asking why. They were tired of resets that felt cosmetic instead of honest.
Buckingham Palace's balcony is now like any other influencer, getting paid to promote a restaurant that she's having her birthday at. I guess things are getting so dire, we must now get essentially comped a birthday meal. So you can see the lengths that Meghan Markle has fallen. But when people started pointing out the nose situation, I'm like, oh yeah, her little slope here is kind of gone because her nose sort of upturned a bit.
Here's the part no one can spin. If changing the face didn't stop the backlash, if disappearing didn't rebuild trust, if Paris didn't deliver redemption, then what's left? This is the wall reinvention hits. The moment when change stops looking like strength and starts looking like avoidance. And something dangerous happens here. People stop being angry, they become indifferent. And indifference kills relevance. Here's the part no one likes to sit with. The issue was never plastic surgery. The issue was never aging. The issue was never beauty. It was alignment. When the outside keeps changing but the story stays defensive, people feel manipulated. When authenticity is preached but resets keep arriving on schedule, trust erodes. And once trust breaks, the audience rewrites the story themselves. They stop asking what did she do? They start asking why is she running? That's the dark center of this story. Not procedures, not rumors, not Paris.
I think, well, we have heard so many people are terrified of her. I'm not terrified of her. I'm sure you're not terrified of her. But a lot of people are very terrified of her. And they think that actually she will get her way because she's powerful, she's got money, they think so anyway. And that she's got, no end of how ghastly she can be, like she's been with Diana. And I think that's all about it, actually, that people are just scared of her.
But the fear of being seen without control remains because the one thing you can't edit, disappear from, or polish away is memory. People remember how you made them feel. They remember patterns. They remember being told to ignore what they could clearly see. And that leads to the final question, the one that sets up everything that comes next. If the image keeps changing and the reaction keeps worsening, what happens when there's nothing left to change? That question is still open and it isn't going away. If you value calm analysis over noise, subscribe. This story keeps evolving and we'll continue following it carefully, fact by fact.